So it seems like The Mandalorian has been canceled by Lucasfilm. Let's check it out. If you enjoy Star Wars news or Marvel news or just pop culture news in general, then hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the video. According to reports from Star Wars Only, now yes, if you've been following this channel or following his channel for any time at all, we've had our differences, right? But I think I can look at this situation objectively as possible and know that Star Wars Only doesn't really come up with scoops that often. He doesn't come out with reports. That's not really what his channel is about. He's not a news channel. He's not a scooping channel. He kind of just makes Star Wars videos about whatever he wants to make Star Wars on, and he kind of just talks about the content more than the stuff that's going on around Star Wars and scooping stuff like this. But he has come out with scoops in the past, and I have to say they've been pretty accurate. He's been pretty accurate every time he comes out with these scoops, and they're very few and far between, because I think that he only wants to report stuff like this whenever he knows for a fact, or at least whenever he knows that his source is reliable. Maybe this stuff could change, and I'll talk about that later on in the video. This could possibly be wrong without Star Wars Only being wrong. Like I said, that's for later on. I think that Star Wars Only knows this for sure. I think he knows for sure that his source is accurate, that his source is trustworthy. But like I said, this type of stuff changes all the time. But I think that John and Dave have a plan, not only for The Mandalorian, but for the future of Star Wars, for the future of their entire universe. And I don't think that plan is going to be in motion too much unless stuff like the Gina Carano firing happens, where they just have to pivot. They have no choice but to pivot. But I don't think that if they were planning on The Mandalorian being 3 seasons, I don't think they would pivot into it being 4 seasons simply to make some more profit off of the name The Mandalorian. It doesn't strike me as a John and Dave thing to do, but maybe Disney, maybe Lucasfilm could force them into doing that. I don't know. But he says that Star Wars The Mandalorian will end on its 3rd season, and this was an exclusive that he reported. He made a big deal out of it, and once again, I don't think that he would lie about it simply because of all the backlash that he got, and we'll go over that in a second. I think that he probably expected that to happen, and that probably happens every single time he gets a scoop, and that's why he waits until he's 100% sure that his source is accurate, until he only reports certain things, and that, like I said, very few and far between, because I'm sure this happens every single time he gets a scoop. But he also says this doesn't mean the story is over in any way, but the series is coming to an end with this next season, I'm told. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni will continue this through series like Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic is my prediction. I 100% agree with that. I think that just because The Mandalorian Season 3 is going to be The Mandalorian's last season, I don't think that means in any way that, for one, obviously we know that the Mandalorian universe is not going to end with the Mandalorian show. But also, I don't think that this is the end of Din Djarin. I don't think that this is the end of Din Djarin's story with the other characters in the show, like Bo-Katan or Boba Fett, and even Grogu and Luke Skywalker. I don't think that this is going to be the last time that we see Din Djarin with any of those characters. Like I said, too much money to be made with those relationships. So with that being said, we have also heard rumors from pretty reliable sources as well, and I am calling Star Wars Only. Like I said, we've had our differences in the past, but I think I can look at this situation objectively enough to call him a reliable source whenever it comes to reporting stuff like this. He has been right a lot in the past, but we've also heard from reliable sources that The Mandalorian, I think this was a few months ago when this came out, that The Mandalorian was going to be a 4-season show, not a 3-season show. And I think that we kind of all accepted, because it was coming from such reliable sources, we kind of all accepted that The Mandalorian was going to be a 4-season show. This person says, really, well, it's going to be for the best. Without Gina Carano / Cara Dune, how can the show keep going on? Now look, I love Gina Carano as much as anyone. I want Gina Carano to succeed. I want her to come back to Star Wars as much as anyone does. But I don't think this has anything to do with Gina Carano or Cara Dune being fired. I don't think that she had that much of a role to play in the show. She was a side character. Now, she was a very good side character and a very believable side character, and I really loved her story, and I really wanted her story, her bloodline, all of that stuff to be fleshed out in later shows. In her own show is really where I wanted that to go. I think that she had a very important bloodline, possibly related to Leia's family in some way. I think that's where they were trying to go. But Matt Jarbo even says, what? Like, he doesn't believe this scoop that Star Wars Only has. This guy says, who the hell are these guys? Who's their source? All of that stuff. And that's pretty much what all these comments are saying. Everyone's asking for a source. This guy says, LOL, okay, sure. He says, don't shoot the messenger. So I think that Star Wars Only probably saw this backlash coming, like I said, and that's why he only reports scoops when he knows his source is reliable. But like I said, this kind of stuff is always in motion. They definitely could swap from Mandalorian being a 4-season show, like we heard a couple of months ago, to it being a 3-season show, and it could also go the other way as well. I don't know. Star Wars Only responds to Matt Jarbo and says, I understand it's hard to trust anyone these days with Doomcock and Mike Zero type stuff being a trend, but I trust this source and correctly covered Darth Maul returning in live action last year, many months before Star Wars Direct confirmed his return to and LRM Online. So as you can see, he's getting a lot of backlash. Just people asking for the source, people saying, who the hell is this guy to have insider info? I guess if you don't have a check mark, people don't believe you, stuff like that. People only believe check marks for some reason. And I don't know this for a 100% fact, but what I've been hearing recently is that whenever the Bad Batch was first announced to be a thing, it was going to be a limited series. It was only going to be a 1-season show. And then before the first season was even over, they announced that there was going to be a second season to that show. So just because something is going to be a certain amount of seasons in this very moment, even if The Mandalorian right now is only planning on being 3 seasons long, that doesn't mean that it can't change. 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, even 5, 6, 7 years down the line, they could have another season of The Mandalorian. Now, I don't think that's very likely for a show like The Mandalorian that's involved in this very large universe that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are creating, because I think that this whole universe is going to culminate in one climactic event, maybe even a cinematic event in the movie theaters. And that's another theory that I'm going to go over in 1 second. But I think that because this whole universe is definitely leading towards a big event, I don't think that 5, 6, 7 years down the line, it's possible to get another season of The Mandalorian, because I think that story will be done. Maybe they could do some sort of prequel series with The Mandalorian and Din Djarin. Maybe, I guess with Grogu, they could do some stuff later on down the line, because he's a Yoda species and they live to be like thousands of years old sometimes. So they could do some stuff in the future with The Mandalorian. I just think that The Mandalorian itself, the name, the series, The Mandalorian ending on 3 seasons, it doesn't really mean much. It doesn't really mean much for the future of Star Wars. It doesn't mean much for Din Djarin or Grogu. It's simply a name. That's all that is. We could continue his story with the Book of Boba Fett. There's so many other spin-off shows that are coming out. I think that The Mandalorian ending just means that in the future, Din Djarin's not going to be the main character of these shows, but he's definitely going to show up. We're definitely going to see Din Djarin's story be furthered in other shows, unless he dies at the end of The Mandalorian season 3, then all that would be put to bed, and that would be the reason why there's no season 4. But also, another theory that I have is that maybe they are waiting for season 4. Maybe they're not going to do a season 4 because they're going to do a movie instead. I don't know if you remember back at that Disney Plus investor event, or maybe it was just a Disney investor event, when Kathleen Kennedy came on stage to announce all the new Star Wars shows, and they pretty much announced the Filoniverse to us. They announced all the shows that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni would be doing, all the Mandalorian universe shows, all of that stuff. She even said that all of these shows could culminate in one cinematic event, possibly even a movie. I'm pretty sure that even came out of her mouth at the investor event. So I think that this stuff could definitely culminate in a movie. I think that's kind of the direction that we're moving into, and I think it could even be a trilogy. So maybe if they were to do to season 4, maybe season 3 will be so much farther in the timeline that it would kind of go past the movie if they did a season 4. So they have to wait until after the movie comes out, after this big cinematic event happens with the Ahsoka show, the Ranger show, which probably is never going to happen, but let's just assume that it is. If the Ahsoka show, the Ranger show, all these Mandoverse shows come together for one event, maybe season 4 would just be a spoiler for that one event, and season 4 is being planned for after that event happens, after that movie comes out, or after that trilogy, whatever it is. There's so many explanations for why this could be happening, and there's so many explanations for why there could be a season 4 down the line. But let me know what you guys think about The Mandalorian ending after its 3rd season. Do you believe this report from Star Wars Only? Like I said, I think he's pretty reliable, but you can let me know what you think in the comments about The Mandalorian and its future. If you did enjoy this video though, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, the link to that will be in the description as well. Thank you for watching the video. Hope to see you in the next one.